Recently, Netflix released a teaser trailer for the upcoming animated series Ghost in the Shell Standalone Complex 2045. And we have to talk about the sheer amount of hate that has been heaped on this teaser trailer and the extremely negative comments that go with that. Now, from the start, let me say that this was announced, as I had seen on social media quite some time ago, and a illustrator who originally came from Russia and had been working in the anime industry in Japan by the name of Ilya Kusanagi, and forgive me if I pronounced the name wrong, posted some character designs which he had done for Major Kusanagi on social media. And now these were 2D illustrations. They actually looked very good, very much in his style, which is extremely popular. I do believe he has hundreds of thousands of followers on social media, and he had recently done character designs and other work on a 2D animated film called Birthday Wonderland. I have no idea how well that film did financially, but I do know that it looked very good, and people were extremely happy to see one of their favorite artists working in the professional anime industry and to see his work on the big screen. And when he originally posted those images, even I was extremely excited for what appeared to be a new series involving many of the original crew from the older Standalone Complex series, and the illustrations which he showed looked very good. But then the teaser itself came out, and it was strikingly different. Now, off the bat, of course, we have to notice that the teaser trailer is 100% 3D animation. That in and of itself is not a bad thing, but the way that this particular show turned out definitely was a turnoff to a large number of fans, and it shows in the comment sections on the trailers. And I mean that for both the US release and the Japanese release of the teaser trailer, there's quite a lot of negative comments going around. Some of it centers on the design of Major Kusanagi herself, the lead character in the show. Some people say they made her too cute, she looks too young, it's too different. Some of the comments even compared the redesign to the previous series, which came out after Standalone Complex. It started as an original video or net animation series called Arise, Ghost in the Shell, where they redesigned the Major to make her appearance somewhat younger, even though the story takes place only about 2 years before the other versions. And some negative comparisons were made to that redesign. Now, I personally like that particular series, maybe not every last little thing about it, but on the whole, I did like that show. And there's also comments saying that we should give this a chance. We don't know how the actual show is going to be. The original Standalone Complex director is returning, I believe, to direct the show or perhaps be a supervising director. Production IG is involved. To what extent, we do not know. And Sola Digital Animation, who is responsible for the Appleseed Alpha and Appleseed CGI animated films, is probably going to be doing the bulk of the work. And you can see that their signature look to a certain degree in the backgrounds and other aspects of the 3D in this show. But the simple fact is, fans really are not agreeing with this. Now, I want to take a look at some of the comments which are found under the video here. And the first thing I want to note before we even get to that is the sheer number of downvotes that the video already has, and that the number of downvotes eclipse the number of likes that it has. And we're talking about what looks like about 400 more dislikes than likes, and only after nearly 200,000 views, less than 4,000 total likes. That's not looking good. But when we get down to the comments, we really we can ignore the comment by myself there, but let's just look at some of the comments that are seen here. The first comment says, "Didn't realize Netflix was expanding into the mobile gaming market." Obviously a comment about the quality of the CG rendering or the 3D animation. Looks pretty good for a Nintendo Switch game. A lot of the comments, and as I mentioned already, the comments are overwhelmingly negative, but a lot of the comments really center around the fact that it looks like game quality CGI or 3D animation, and not today or current game quality CG animation. Some people are comparing it to cinematics on older PlayStation 2 or PlayStation 3 games. And yeah, some of the comments, damn, I really miss old animation. Looks like one of those cheaply animated 3D kids cartoons. I've come across a lot of comments that compare it to an old TV show called Reboot. That I would say is actually somewhat unfair, but continuing. I'm so happy that they still make games for the PS2. Is this an out-of-season April Fool's joke? Less than 24 hours and almost 50% downvotes. At the time that was written 20 hours ago, as we know now, downvotes are actually quite a bit more than likes. I guess we have made our statement. Now, this is actually kind of important because the audience is speaking here. The audience is saying something which I believe is important, and I want to get into another aspect of that a little bit later after we look at a few more of these comments. Remember when 1995 Ghost in the Shell was an absolute marvel in 2D animation? Well, here we are almost 25 years later. Ghost in the Shell is now animated in Source Filmmaker. I don't know if I want to get into the comments equating the look of the animation to Source Filmmaker. If you get it, you get it. If not, let's just move on. I love Gits, but sorry, this looks like crap. Almost as bad as their take on Saint Seiya. I remember seeing this CG animated Saint Seiya when I was in China. Personally, I didn't think it was all that bad. Considering that, in general, CGI animation in Japan has not been on the same level as works by DreamWorks or Pixar, I thought that the Saint Seiya animation was pretty good. Not up there with some of the most recent examples of really good CGI animation from Japan, like Dragon Quest, Your Story, or the new Lupin the Third CG animated film, but still not as horrible as some seem to think it is. Stop it, Netflix, please. You already destroyed Saint Seiya, and now this? When is this nightmare going to end? So, I mean, you can see in general the kind of comments that are going on here. So you have Production IG involved, yet still went with the generic 3D rendering style. What a waste. We'll skip a couple of these. Looks like a cartoon for a child. Looks like it was made by one dude using Blender. That's kind of unfair in my opinion, but I think you can kind of get the gist of how the audience in general feels. And this is really talking about the Western audience. This is the American release or Netflix global release of the trailer. Let's take a moment and look at some of the comments on the Japanese release. So let's take a look at some of the comments on the Netflix Japan release. As you can see, it also has almost as many downvotes as it has likes. In this case, 1.5K likes and 1K dislikes. This does not bode well for this series. Now, there are some comments from English speakers on here, but I want to look at some of the comments from Japanese users. Hopefully, I won't have to break out the Google Translate. But this says, このデザインは少佐のゴリラ感じが足りてない. And what that means is he's saying she's not gorilla-like enough. I don't know if you remember in both the series and I think even in the original movie, characters like Ishikawa sometimes refer to her as a gorilla woman because the Major is supposed to be mean and tough, which this does not look like. And then you have some other comments. This is saying that the original voice actor has come back. I can't read her name, but it's the voice actor from the original film. And the funny thing is, that's the only positive comment I have found about this trailer from Japanese users is that the original voice actor is back. This says, Arita nami ni yuakan aru na, saying it's as strange as Alita, which to me, this is a little bit of a weird comment because I thought that the CG character in Alita Battle Angel looked amazing, but apparently this guy says it's as strange as Alita. Mukashi no seiyu ga memba de ureshi, but he's happy that the original voice actor is back. And then you have a couple of at least I thought there were other comments about that, but anywhere else you see a positive comment. This says Mata gitai no kishi hen shita no ka, asking did the Major change her body again, asking if she actually got another artificial body because she looks that different. Furu 3D CG ka Ningyo geki mitaku nakereba yoi keredo. This is saying this is full 3D CG. Well, if you want to see a puppet show, I guess. But anyway, you get the idea. It's definitely not been well received. Another comment saying that the original voice actor is back. But the simple fact is, on both sides, on the Japanese side and on the Netflix Global or Netflix English release side of the trailer, you got almost as many, or in the other case, more dislikes than likes. And people are generally not happy. And now I want to get into the other aspect I said I wanted to mention here. Now, you remember I mentioned the comment that says less than 24 hours and almost 50% downvotes. I guess we have made our statement. And I said I wanted to come back to that. And what I meant when I said I wanted to come back to that is how I think about a comment like this from an audience member. Now, as you know, over the years, I've been developing a couple of different 3D animation pipelines, or pipelines which allow me to create animation heavily built on 3D techniques. Most recently, those that involve tools like Lightwave 3D, ZBrush, Marvelous Designer, and so on. But as you also know, I do 2D animation as well. I'm a huge fan of TV Paint, fully paperless, but still traditionally hand-drawn animation. I do both. And one of the reasons I have developed the different paths to 3D animation that I created was for speed, was for the ability to create series work at a decent speed. If I had to speak for myself, I am much more a fan of hand-drawn traditional animation. Not all. Of course, there are 3D shows that I think are just absolutely phenomenal, especially some recent things like Ganso and so on. And I won't even get into Love, Death, and Robots. But anyway, it really gives me pause when I see the overly negative reaction to something like this. Ghost in the Shell has always been one of my favorite animations from Japan. A lot of the type of shows or stories that I want to tell are somewhat futuristic, somewhat cyberpunk. And I also, being that I live in Asia, I've always been have a strong consideration for the Asian audience and the audience in Japan in anything that I create. And seeing such an overwhelming negative response to CG animation does give me pause as far as which pipeline I want to go with for my next show. Should I break out the TV Paint, save up some money, buy a Cintiq, and go 2D? Or should I continue down this path with the pipelines I've been developing? Now, of course, anything I do would be some kind of hybrid. I'm always going to use both, but the question is how much of both? Like the original Ghost in the Shell standalone complex, where the characters were primarily 2D and machines like tanks and the Tachikoma are 3D. It's really about how much of each to use, because the full 3D pipeline is, of course, depending on if I'm using a technique like Anagen Final Secrets or my other new pipeline, it can be faster. But at the same time, you also have a lot of front end setup that goes into 3D, building all of your assets and everything, which doesn't exist in 2D. It's a crapshoot, but this gives me pause as far as how much of something can be 3D without being a complete turnoff to the audience. So what do you think? When you look at your favorite shows, how much 3D is too much? Or do you prefer 100% 3D animated shows? Or do you prefer 100% 2D animated shows? I'd love to hear your thoughts on that in the comments below, and get any opinions on what you think is the best way forward, considering how audiences react to something like this. And thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.